In this video we'll see how can we create user sign-up and login using JWT tokens and HTTP-only cookies. First we'll create a new Next project. I'll use pnpm as package manager. Run the command, pnpm create next app, then project name. It will ask a few questions. I'll select yes, for Typescript. No to ESLint. No for Tailwind CSS. No to source folder. And select yes, for app router. I will use the default alias and select no here. It will take some time. I have opened the project in VS Code. To start the project on localhost we run pnpm dev. If we copy this URL and open it in our browser, we should see something like this. First we'll write backend APIs. Let's install some packages for that. pnpm add mongoose for accessing mongoDB. JSON web token to handle JWT tokens. Bcrypt.js for hashing the password before storing it in DB. We'll also add types for Bcrypt.js and JSON web token in dev dependencies. After these packages are installed we'll create schema for user. In app folder create a folder models. Inside it create user.ts. Here we'll import some things from mongoose. It's giving us error, let's check if mongoose is installed or not. So the issue was that in our tsconfig file the module resolution is set to bundler. Change it to node or node next. And it will fix this error. Let's import schema, model, and finally models. Const user schema equals new schema. Here we give fields for our user. First is email of type string. Unique true. I want this field to be required, so I pass true here and also give custom error message. And then in match I'll give a regular expression to validate email, and also give custom error message here. Our user will also have a name of type string. Required true. It'll have a minimum length of 4, and if it is less than 4 this message will be returned. Max length of 30. Next we have password, which is also a string. It'll be a required field. Select false. This means that when we run find queries the user in response will not have password key. We do this to ensure that password is not exposed from APIs. Minimum length of 6. As we don't want to save password as it is in DB, we'll hash it before saving it. And we'll use Mongoose pre-save hook to do that. Make sure to use function keyword here because in arrow functions this points to global scope. And you might see unexpected behavior. Here we check if password is not modified. Then we don't do anything and call next function and return. Which means continue with the next middleware in the chain. Otherwise we save hashed password. To do that we import hash from bcrypt.js. This .password equals to await hash. Here we provide this .password and a salt value. Now we'll create const user. If there is existing model we'll use it by models.user else we'll create a new one. Then export default user. Now we'll write code to connect to the database. In the root of project create .env.local file. Here we'll add mongoDB URL. I'll be using mongoDB Compass as my local database. Here I'll paste the connection URI. Next 13DB here is the name of database I'll be using. In the app folder, create a new folder, name it lib. Inside it create a file mongodb.ts. Here we import mongoose. Then destruct mongodb URL from process.env. Check if it is empty, then throw an error. Now create an async arrow function, connect to MongoDB. First we'll check if mongoose.connection.readyState is not 0. Here you can see ready state 0 means disconnected. If that is the case, then don't connect again and return because our connection is already established. So we'll connect to DB only when it is in disconnected state. Below this condition write a try-catch block. Inside the try we destruct connection from response returned from mongoose.connect. The connect function will take the connection string. Now check if ready state is one, that is DB is connected, then return promise.resolve true. And in the catch return promise.reject error. Now we'll start with our Signup API. Inside the app folder, create a API folder. Here I'll create a folder to organize auth-related endpoints. And in it add a folder Signup. Inside this folder create a file route.ts. Make sure to name this file route. Here we write our APIs. Export async function, then name of the HTTP method. Since Signup API is post request, so here we write post. It'll get a parameter, request, give it type of next request and make sure to import it. Write a try catch. Here I'll destruct the fields for user from request.json. And we have to await it as well. Then we connect to our DB and in the catch we do next response.json and give the error. Make sure to import next response. We'll check if user is already present in DB, then don't add them. To do that, do await user.findOne, make sure to import user from models. In findOne, pass the email we get from request. If user exists, then return an error message. And status 409. If user is already present, it will return from here. And if they don't exist, we create a new user. Const new user equals await user.create. And here we pass name, email, and password. Now we need to create auth token for user and then save that in cookies. We'll write helper functions for that. I'll create a new file in lib folder that is serverhelpers.ts. I'll be creating two different files for our client and server-side helpers to avoid the issue of poisoning. That is unintentionally using code that was only intended to be run on the server to run on client. This may cause errors. First, let's add an environment variable to store JWT secret that we need to create our token. Here we provide a secure and secret value. I'll use this command to create a random string. This command along with other useful links will be added in the description below. Paste the string here. In server helper we destruct our secret from process.env. Check if it is empty, throw an error. Now we create an arrow function generate auth token that takes ID of type string. Return type of this function is also string. First import JWT from JSON Web Token. Return JWT.sign, here first parameter is ID. Then our JWT secret. And then the time in which this token expires, I'll set 7 days here. Now let's write a function to set cookies. It will take value of type string in parameter and return nothing. Import cookies from next headers. Call the cookies function like this and then do .set. Provide name of cookie, I'm giving auth token. Then give value. To make our cookie safe we add HTTP only, true. This will prevent anyone from accessing them from client scripts. Then we set secure true in production to ensure that cookie only sent over secure connection, such as HTTPS. We create a const and check if environment is production or not. If the environment is production it will be true. If is production is true set same site to be strict else set it to lax. Strict means cookie will only be sent with requests that are made to the same site where the cookie was created. Then give max age of 7 days, we need to provide it in seconds. I'll be using same function for logging user out. And in that case I'll pass empty string in value. This will reset the value and if the value is empty we'll set max age to 0 otherwise it is 7 days. Now open the signup route.ts. Here generate auth token and pass new user ._ID to it. Make sure to import generate auth token. Then call set auth cookies, import it as well. Here we pass the auth token. Return next response.json success, true. And a message that user have been signed up. Give status code of 201. If there was any error while creating the user it will come in catch. We check that if error is an instance of mongoose.error.validation error. Make sure to import mongoose. Here we add a loop, because I want to show messages one by one. So I loop through them and just return message for the first one. And also return next response.json success, false and error outside the condition. This is because if error is not a validation error, then still we need to return some response to user. Now let's test the API by calling it from Postman. Select the method to post and give the URL. Base URL is localhost and the port, then /API/auth/signup, as this is where we have added route.ts. We'll pass data in body. Select raw then JSON. If we click send without passing any data, it will give error. If I pass wrong email, it will give invalid email error. Giving valid email will now give name missing error. This is the error if password is missing. And password should have minimum length of 6. After providing all valid inputs, we get success true and status 201. If I open the MongoDB compass, we can see the user has been added in here. And password is saved as an hash. Now if we call the API with same email, it will give an error. Let's add another user. We can also see that creating a user sets a HTTP-only cookie. Since it is localhost secure is false. Let's quickly create the Login API. In Auth folder create Login folder, where we create route.ts file. Export async function then name of the HTTP method, in this case post, since it will be a post request. In parameters we get request, of type next request and make sure to import it. Write a try catch. Here I'll destruct email and password from await request.json. Check if email and password are empty, then return response accordingly. If both inputs are provided, we call our connect to DB function. Now we'll get the user by doing await user.findOne. Make sure to import user from models. In findOne, pass the email we get from request. As we have done, select false in our schema. Therefore, password will not be returned in findOne response. So we need to add this select so that we can also compare password before logging in. If user is empty, then return error that user does not exist. Otherwise, we'll check is password correct or not. Import compare function from bcrypt.js. Await compare, here give password that comes in request. And then the one that we have saved in DB. If it is incorrect, return error response. If any of above responses are not returned, it means user is valid with correct credentials. So in that case, we generate auth token using user._id. And we also need to set auth cookies. Now return success response. In catch, we return error. To test Login API from Postman, select the method to post and give the URL. Change the URL accordingly. I'll write login here, as this is the path we get according to our folder structure. We'll pass data to login. And user is successfully logged in. And we have our auth token saved in cookie. And giving wrong credentials will give error. Now we'll create Logout API. In Auth, create a new folder for Logout. Here create route.ts. It'll be a post request, so create an async function post. Receive request parameters of type next request. Add a try-catch statement. Here we call the setAuthCookies helper. As I said before, we'll use same function to set our auth token on login, and to remove it from cookies on logout. We just pass empty string in case of logging out. Here this value will become empty string and max age will become 0. Now we return response that user has been logged out. And in catch we return error. Let's call it from Postman. Before calling logging out, we can see we have auth token in cookie. Copy this URL and paste it in new request. Replace login with logout. Change the method to post. And then send request. Success response is returned. And if we see cookies, we can see there is no token now and there are no cookies. Now we'll quickly write an endpoint for profile. In API folder we create a folder user. Inside it create a folder profile. And here create route.ts file. Export async function get, as it is a GET request. Here write a try-catch. We will show profile to only those users who have logged in. And to do that we'll write a helper. Inside server helpers create a async arrow function. Get the auth token from cookie like this. Here we give same name of cookie we used when setting it. Let user equals null. It will be of type IUser. To create types I'll create a folder in app and here create index.ts. Export interface IUser. It will have _ID of type string. Email, string, and name, which is also a string. Now open helpers. Make sure to import this interface. User will be either of type IUser or null. If user is null, we will consider them as logged out. First, we add a condition to check that token has a value. Because if token is not present in cookies, then user cannot be authorized. Now we need to check if that token is valid or not. To do that, we write JWT.verify. Here we pass the token we get from cookie and our JWT secret from environment variable. If we console log data._id, then it will give error. This is because the verify function returns data which is either string or JWT payload. So here I add a condition that if type of data is not equal to string. If it is not string, we add a try catch. And in try we first call our connect to DB function. Then write user equals await user.findById. Make sure to import user from models. Here pass data._id. And then return user. In catch we return null. Outside the if we return user, which will basically be null. This is because we have initialized user with null and it will have a valid user only when the above if condition is true. And if token is empty, in that case we return user, which will again be null. Now open the profile route. Here we do const user equals await is user authorized. Make sure to import it. If user is empty, then return response that log into view profile. Otherwise we return success true and user in response. In catch return error. Let's call it from postman. Copy this URL, paste it in a new tab. Change it to base URL/API/user/profile. It should be a GET request. When we click send, we receive success true and user object. Now we'll make the front end, and to do that we'll install some packages first. npm add Axios to call our backend APIs. React icons to show icons on forms. In this project we'll be using Scss modules to style our views, so in dev dependencies we add Sass. And then install Typescript plugin CSS modules, also in dev dependencies. Now in the app folder I'll create a route group. To do this I'll create a folder inside app and write its name within the parentheses. It will help organize routes without affecting the URL. I'll also provide Next.js documentation link for routes group in the description below. In this folder create a new folder Signup. Here we create a file page.tsx. Make sure to name this file page. Here I create a new page. I'm using VS Code ES7 extension to do that. Now in browser if we open the signup page we see something like this. Note that we have opened base URL/signup. As auth folder is wrapped in parentheses it will not come in URL. Now I'll remove some of the default styles. Open global.css. Remove all of these extra code. And after that, this is how our global CSS file will look. And this is how the page looks now. To change the title of the page we add some piece of code in our page.tsx. Export const metadata of type metadata. Import it from Next. Here we provide title and description of page. The title has changed here. Now I'll create a component for signup form. In app folder create a new folder components. Here create folder auth. Inside it create signup.tsx. And also create a file for styles auth.module.scss. Open signup file and start to write code by adding a React component. Remove this, add a div with class name styles.container. Import styles from auth module. Although we don't have container class in our SCSS file, it is not giving us error. This is why we installed Typescript plugin CSS modules. It should give us error if we try to access wrong class name from styles object. Setting up this package is optional, but I'll like to do it as it is useful. To do that I open tsconfig file. In plugins add an object and here provide the name of the package. Then open Settings of VS Code and Search plugin. And add the plugin here. I have already added it. If you are not using VS Code, then this step may slightly vary. Now if I open Signup file, it will give us error as there is no container class in our styles yet. Let's create it and give it some styles. Display, flex. Align items, center. Justify content, center. Height, 100 VH. This error is not fixed even after providing a class, because of the spelling mistake in styles file. Now you can see that there are no errors. To view this form, we need to add this component in our page file. Here add the Signup component. Now open Signup component, and inside this div we create a form with class name styles.form. And within form we have h2 with class name styles.title. This is how it looks. And now let's update the styles. Give form background of white. And give some box shadow. Width of 30%. Minimum height 75%. Now give some padding. Display flex. Flex direction, column. Align items, center. Justify content, space evenly. Now give styles to title. Font size 1.2 rem. Color black with an opacity of 0.5. Text align, center. Padding 1 rem. This is how it looks. Now we need to add input fields. In components, create a folder common. Here create a new folder input. And inside it create index.tsx. And input.module.scss. In index file, create a React component and name it input. Create interface input props. Props will get label of type string. Value, string. On change, that takes parameter of type React.changeEvent, HTML input element. And returns void. Then our input field will get type in props, which is optional, and string. Name, that is also optional and string. And finally optional error, that is a string as well. Let's destruct these props here. Remove this text and give this div a class name of styles.container. Import styles from input.module.scss. Let's add this class in SCSS file. I'll give it some temporary background color. To see effects of styles on input, we need to add it in our Signup component. Under the H2 Add Input component, make sure to import it. Pass label of the field. Then name. We'll use name props to get value while setting in state. Then we pass value that we will get from state. Create a state to store all field in the form. Make sure to import useState. Now here we pass data.name. Let's comment this input for a while because we are going to get an error for using state. In Next.js, all components are server components unless we explicitly make them client. As we cannot use states in server components, we need to add the directive useClient to make Signup a client component. And this resolve this error. Now I'll uncomment our input field. And add and on change. Handle input change will get event of type react.changeEvent and parameters. Here we call setData. Now we'll start to write our input component. Inside container, create a div with class wrapper. And inside wrapper, add an input with class name styles.input. Open input styles file, and remove this temporary color and give some styles to container. Width, 100%. Display, flex. Flex direction, column. Now add a class for wrapper. Here add position, relative. Width, 100%. Display, flex. Justify content, center. Align items, center. Now we'll add styles for input. Width, 100%. Padding, 1 rem vertically, 1.2 rem horizontally. Then give a border of 1 pixel solid. Border radius, 4 pixels. Font size, 1 rem. Outline color, transparent. This is how the input field looks now. Now we will open input index file and use the props. Here give the type from prop. Also add name, value and onChange to input element. Then below the input tag we add a span with class name styles.label. Here we give label. Let's style it and add a class label in Scss file. Position, absolute. Left 0. Padding left, 1.2 rem. Font size, 1 rem. Give it some color. Transition, 0.6 seconds. This is how it looks now. We want this label to move up on focus of input, for that we'll add some styles in our input class. On focus give a border of 3 pixels solid and color green. Then add if the input is focused select the immediate sibling. In this case it is a span. We can see in our input index file that span is the sibling of input. Here we change the color to green. Transform, translate x, 5 pixels. Translate y, -25 pixels. Now we need to give it a background color and decrease its font. Background color white. Font size, 0.75 rem. Font weight, 600. Padding, 0 vertically and 6 pixels horizontally. Now if we focus the input field, label will float at the top like this. But if we type something and remove the focus from field, label will come down, which we don't want. To fix this we'll add placeholder in our input component. And add another selector here that is not placeholder shown. And that issue is fixed. Now when input is not focused we need to change the color of the label. To do this we use not focus selector and change color of span. This is how it looks now. Now we'll write code to add a show hide icon for passwords. Below span we check the type, if it is password we render password icon. Let's define this function. First create a state show password, which will initially be false. Then import icons from React icons/bs. In render password icon we check if show password is true. Then return bsi/. And give it a class name of styles.showHideIcon. Create this class in styles file. Position, absolute. Right, 25 pixels. Color, black with some opacity. We give absolute position to show it here in case of password fields. If show password is false, return BSI and give it class name styles.showHideIcon. On click of both of these icons call toggle password icon. Inside toggle password icon, we set show password and here toggle the value like this. So if it is true it will become false and vice versa. Now open Signup component and add other fields. Second field will be for email. Then we create a field for password. Then we have confirm password. Make sure this name is same as the key we used in state data object. This is because we are using it to set the data. Now to show the icons we need to give type password in our password fields. As you can see clicking here toggles the icon but does not show the text. This is because we are not changing the type based on this icon state. In input index file, add a use effect. In the dependencies add show password and type. Here we check if type is password and show password is true. Then we set the type to text. For that create a state input type with initial value of type. Else set input type to whatever type coming in props. Now pass input type here. If we type something in password field and click show password icon, text will be revealed. Now we need to check why is there no gap between the input fields. So in Auth module container class, we had to provide height not min height. Now we need to add error text in our input component to show errors. Let's make a new component to do that. In common folder create error text, here create a file index.tsx. And error text.module.scss. In index file create a React component, name it error text. Here create an interface error text props. This component will get text in props, which is a string. Remove this and add a paragraph with class name styles.errorMessage. Import styles from error text.module.scss. Now here create the error message class. Font size 0.8 rem. Give a reddish color. Give margin of 0.5 rem vertically and 0 horizontally. Now open input component, outside the wrapper div add a condition. If error is not empty, then show error text. And make sure to import this component. Now if we open Signup component and add some dummy error in name field, we can see it's working. Remove this dummy error, and then we need to create a button so that we can submit our form. In common folder create a folder button. Inside it create index.tsx and button.module.scss. Inside the index file create a React component, named button. Then create an interface button props. It will have title of type string and a optional type, which can either be submit or button or reset. Then we have onClick in props. Here we destruct the props like this. Remove this div and add a button tag. Here we give the title. Pass type and onClick from props like this. And give it a class name of styles.container. Import styles from button module. Here add this class. Border radius, none. Give some background color. And text color. Font size, 0.9 rem. Width, 100%. Padding, 0.8 rem. Cursor, pointer. Transition, all 0.5 seconds. Border radius, 2 pixels. Outline color, transparent. Then add some box shadow. Display grid. Place items, center. On hover of button we will change the color. Now open Signup component and add this button under Confirm Password field. Make sure to import it. Here we pass Submit and type. And sign up in title. I think this hover color is too light. I would like to change it. Now it looks much better. Open Signup component. On submit a form call handle signup. Create this function. It will get a parameter of type React.formEvent, HTML form element. First we do event.prevent default. Now we will write code to validate the input. Inside lib folder create a file validators.ts. Here create a arrow function validate signup data. It will take data of type signup form input and return error of type input error. Let's create these types. Open index file in types folder. Export interface signup form input. Here we have name of type string. Email that is a string. Password string. And finally confirm password, also string. Export interface input error. It will be an object with a string key. And this key will have a message of type string. Now open validators and import these types. Create an empty object error. Now check if data.name.trim is equal to empty string. Then in error add an object with key and a message. We'll later use this key to access the error. And if the length of name is less than 4, assign an object to error with the same key because we want to show these messages below our name input. Then we check if length of name is greater than 30. If data.email.trim is equal to empty string, we will assign email required error, but in this case the key will be email here. To check if it is a valid email or not, I will create a constant. In app folder, create a new folder. Inside it create a file index.ts. Here create a regular expression to test emails. Now in our validators, we can add a condition to check that if email pattern.test returns false. Then assign an error object here. Now add check for empty password. Here the key will be password. Add condition for password length. If password and confirm password don't match, then also we will show an error. But in this case key of error object will be confirm password. Now we can return error. In Signup component give type to state. Import Signup form input from types. Create a new state validation error of type input error. Remember to import it from types. In handle signup function call validate signup data. Import this function from validators. Pass data state here. and assign its return value in error. If I console.log error and submit form by clicking the sign up button, we can see error object with name, key, and message. Here set validation error state. And in input fields we pass error props like this. Now we can see errors are displaying in form. Let's add error prop for all fields. Now we can see errors for all the fields. There is one issue that we need to fix. That is, if we click on this label, field is not focused. To fix this, open input.module.scss file. In label class add pointer events none. Now if we click anywhere, field will be focused. Now to complete our sign up form we have to add some text below the button, so that user can navigate to login page. In Components Auth folder, create a new file infotext.tsx. Here create a React component and add an interface infotext props. It will have text of type string. Link href of type string. And link title also string. We will reuse this component for login form as well, so we will change href and link title based on which form it is being used in. Inside this div create a span with class name styles.infotext. Import styles from Auth modules. Here add this class. Font size 0.8 rem. And margin right 0.5 rem. We show text in span. Below span we add a link from next link. Give it class name styles.link. And also provide href. And here we give the link's title. Let's create this class in styles. Font size 0.8 rem. Give it a bluish color. And align self flex end. Transition all 0.5 seconds. On hover we give a darker color. Now in Signup component below the button we add this info text. Make sure to import it. Here we pass text, already have an account. Link href/login. And link title login. This is how it will look. With this our signup page UI is complete, and now we'll create UI for our login page. In app auth create a new folder login. Here create page.tsx. Import metadata from Next. And change title and description of page like this. Here we'll add login component. So in components auth folder create a login.tsx. Here create a React component. And add it to our page. From our signup view, if we click this link, it will take us to login page. Now we will start to update our login component. Import styles from Auth module. Give this div class name of styles.container. Inside container add a form element. In class name we give two classes, first is styles.form, and other is styles.loginForm. This is because I want to make login form's height slightly smaller. We need to create login form class in Auth module. And give minimum height of 70%. Inside form create h2 with styles.title. And give title of your form here. Then add input, first is for email. Provide label and name of this field. And for value create a state. And we'll get error because we need to add the use client directive. Initialize the state with object containing email and password. To give this state a type we add an interface in our types index file. Export interface login form input. It has email and password of type string. Here give this type and make sure to import it. Now we pass data.email as value here. On change call handle input change. And create this function. Inside it set data like this. Now add input field for password. And give it type password. This is how it looks up till now. Below this add a button with type submit. And title login. And under the button add info text. Text will be don't have an account. And link href will be /signup. And give link title, signup. Clicking on this link will take us to signup page. Now we need to handle login form submission. In our login component we create a state validation error of type input error. On submit of the form call handle login. Create this function. It will receive event and parameter of type React.form event, HTML form element. First we call e.preventDefault. Then open validator.ts file to write a validator function. Export const validate login data. It will get data of type login input form in parameter. And return error of type input error. Create a new variable error. And from validate signup data I'll copy 3 conditions. First is if email is empty then show error. Then check for valid email. And then check if password is empty or not. Now return error object. Open login component and in handle login call validate login data. Pass state data here. And then set validation error. In both the input fields pass error prop like this. Now if we try to log in with empty field it will give us error. And with this, our UI for login form is also complete. Now we need to call our backend APIs on submit of our forms. Let's first call our Signup API from Signup component. Make handle Signup function async. Then we need to check if this error is empty or not. For that, we will create a helper function. In lib folder, create a file for client helpers. Here export const is object empty. This function will receive an object in parameter. Object.keys returns an array of keys in an object. So if the length of this array is 0, that means our object is empty. Now go back to handle Signup function. Here we call our helper we just created and pass error object to it. Make sure to import this helper. If error is empty, that means our form input is valid. So if it is valid, we call our Signup API. Here add a try catch. And inside try we write, const API response is equal to await Axios. Make sure to import Axios. Axios.post. Here give URL for the Signup API we created. And then pass data, that is our state. Now check if API response.data.success is true. Then we open profile page. For that we need to create a router. Const router equals use router. Import use router from Next navigation. Make sure not to import it from Next router, instead from Next navigation. Now do router.push/profile. In catch we check if error is an instance of Axios error. Import it from Axios. We get error message from error.response.data.error. And to set it we create a state. Here set the submit error state with this error message. And in case of success we will set it to empty string to reset any error. Now below the button, we check if submit error is not empty, then show it, using our error text component. Now if I fill the form using an email that is already present in DB, it should give us error. When we click on Sign Up button, our API is called and it takes some time for response to come. So we should show some form of loader here. Now I want you to try to add a loader on your own, and you can ask any questions in comments. Let's create a profile page so that we can navigate to it on Sign Up. In App folder, create a route group user like this. Inside it, add a folder profile. And here create page.tsx. And now in components, create a folder user. Inside it, create a folder profile. Here create index.tsx and profile.module.scss. Here we create a React component. And in profile page we add our component. Now if we sign up a new user, it will redirect us to the profile page. Now I will also call API from login form. Open signup component. And copy this code from here. And now open login component, and in handle login paste it. Import this helper. And then import Axios. Change the URL. As we have used await here, make this function async. Then import Axios error. Now we need to create submit error state. And then create a router. Import useRouter from Next navigation. In case of success, we'll show profile page. And in catch we handle error. Under the button component we show error text, for error coming in API response. Now if I log in with wrong credentials, we'll get error. If I log in with correct password, it will take us to profile page. Let's show a greeting and logout button on profile page. I'll create context so that we can access user in different components. In app folder, create a folder context. Here create auth context.tsx. Make it client component. Create a auth context. Import this from React. Initialize context with null. Let's create an interface for it. It will have user of type IUser or null. I'll create a separate type to define it. So create type context user equals IUser or null. Now here we use context user. This interface will also have a set user function of type React dispatch. And here we give React.setActionState. Context user. So our auth context can be of type IAuth context or null. Then we need to create a auth context provider. With takes children in props. Let's define interface for provider props. It will have children of React.React node. Then we give our props interface here. Now create a state user of type context user. Create a router to navigate to login in case of error. Make sure to import it from Next navigation. Now inside a use effect we call the Profile API. Create an async function. And inside the try we await Axios.get. And here we give URL of our Profile API. If API response.data.success is true, then we set user like this. And in catch we navigate to login page, because there was an error getting the user. Then we call our getProfile function here. Now we return authContext.provider. And inside it we give children like this. Then in value we pass an object of user and set user. Now create a custom hook so that we can easily use our context in components. Export const use auth context. Here we create const context equals to use context. Import use context from React. And here we pass auth context. If context is empty we throw error. Else we return context. Now use auth context provider to wrap the tree of components that need the state context. I'll wrap my entire app. From app folder open layout file. And here wrap children with auth context provider. Now after the user is logged in we need to set it in the context so that we can use it in other components like profile. And to do that I'll make some changes in Login API. Open route.ts file for Login API. And in case of success return user in response. I want name, email and ID of the user. And make sure to add a plus sign here so that we get all the user fields plus their password. Now we do something similar for Signup API, as we want to set user in context on signup as well. In case of success we send user in response. This new user is the one we created here. Now in our login component we get user and set user from our custom hook, use auth context. And then in handle login function, when the API returns success we set the user. And remove this from here because we'll add a check below, so that if user is logged in we don't show them login page. Here check if user is not null then that means they are logged in, so redirect to profile page. Import redirect from Next navigation. And we can remove this from here. Now repeat same steps for Signup component. Get user and set user from context. And in case of API success, we remove this navigation and set the user. Then check if user is present in context, then show profile. Otherwise show signup page. Now open index file of profile component. Here get user and set user from context. If user exists, we show them greeting. Else we show loading. Here return a div container, import styles from profile module. Inside container add a h3 showing hello and then user.name. Below h3 we show logout button. Give title logout. And on-click call handle logout. Create an async handle logout function. Inside try call Logout API, which is a post request. When API returns success, set user in context to null. And navigate to login page. And in case of error, show error. Since I have a very simple profile page, I'll quickly add some styles in profile module file. As we have used context here, we will have to make this a client component. Now if I log in, you can see the greeting and a logout button. If I go to Login and Signup page, it will take us back to profile page since the user is logged in. We can see login page for a second. You can also add loading state in context and show a loader based on it. If we log out and try to open profile page, it will take us to login page. Now let's try to sign up the user. It will show us the greeting. And opening login page will take us back to profile page. Now lastly, we need to make login and signup pages responsive. Open Auth module.scss file. Here inside the form class, give a media query for max width 64 MB. And for max width 48 MB. Now if we see our form, it is responsive, and we can sign up a new user. And log in them, and keep them logged in using HTTP-only cookies. If you find this video helpful, please hit the like button. And subscribe my channel to support it. Hit the bell icon to get notified when new video is posted.